Resolution number 10, authorization to proceed with RD Management LLC for the development of the Louisa Lower South Street parcel. Councilman Bolden, please.
I'd like to move Resolution J10 as presented.
Second.
On the question, please.
On October 10th, 2006, a presentation was made by RD Management, LLC, and the public hearing was held to solicit public comment on proposal to develop the Louisa Lower South Street parcel as a Target store. A majority of council members have expressed interest in considering the construction of a Target store at this location. The details and specifics of this development proposal have not been finalized at this time, and additional work is needed in order to begin negotiations with the developer. In order to proceed, the developer needs assurance that the city supports this concept and will begin negotiations in good faith. Any agreement with the developer will require that the city be reimbursed for the entire cost to purchase the land, if applicable, and will not be liable for any costs associated with this project. The city will require an escrow account from RD Management LLC for the purpose of reimbursing the costs charged by consultants, engineers, attorneys, and others associated with the transformation of this parcel to a large-scale retail development. This project will pay the equivalent full taxes to the city. Therefore, be resolved that the staff is hereby authorized to move forward with RD Management LLC in order to designate RD Management LLC as preferred developer and to enter into a land disposition agreement to achieve the city's interest and goals as set forth herein above. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Yes, Mayor, I would like to thank the people that came out to this council meeting this evening with a positive attitude that Target was their choice. We did have a big crowd, so they're not here, but I would like to applaud them.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for attending this public hearing. It was worthwhile.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Yes, Mayor. We've pondered this for probably well over a year, and there are always questions, there are always risks, but I believe that this Target will be the appropriate business to come into Peekskill for a whole lot of reasons. But it was interesting because, as has been pointed out, I think there were approximately 165 actual requests for qualification in their proposals. Unfortunately, 2 only came in at the end when we did the second mailing for the actual proposals. Council members submitted names of entities. Neighborhoods, as was suggested earlier, submitted names. Neighborhoods did, and our own staff really did their homework. It is unfortunate that only one company, RD, came in, because a little competition in seeing and hearing would be fun. It would be interesting to see what was best for Peekskill. But something hit me tonight that I thought was even more appropriate, that this developer would be coming into the city of Peekskill, yes, and he would definitely be putting himself on the line to put this property in, yes. Target would be putting in approximately $10 million into that area for the building and for the inner workings of the whole building, including merchandise. I think it's a win-win. When I went door to door last year during the campaign, people said, you know, you've got $5 and $6 and $7 stores. Let's have a balance here. I'm supporting the Target. I think it's the right thing to do. I don't think we need to wait. The opportunity is now, and I think we need to grab at it, because I think most communities would give their eye tooth for this particular opportunity. Mayor?
Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Several. One is, I believe the person that is proposing to do business with the city is RB Peekskill LLC, not RD Management LLC. It is one of the principals of RD Management, but he is in fact proposing to do business with the city on his own through RB Peekskill LLC. So I think that is important in however the resolution ultimately gets approved. I do have real reservations about the project, and it's not about Target store per se. And it's not a criticism of the process, because I think the staff worked as hard as they could in approaching a process that said, let's throw out a large net and see what people want to bring to us. But it wasn't a process that said, unless we were predestined to do retail, what is it we really want to build in that area? I don't buy the notion that we are out of time or that, we're behind the 8 ball and we need to do something now. We passed a resolution a month ago that the city can pass a bond and buy the land and develop it as we see would work in the best interest of all of Peekskill. My reservations are around the issue of what happens with the entire Lower South Street corridor. It was very clear when Richard Burdorf responded to some of the questions that I had sent to him in writing on Friday that part of what's important in this deal being appropriate and successful for Target is how the surrounding area is rezoned. It was incumbent for the deal even to move forward that L&L scrap metal needed to be relocated or moved or displaced or wherever they ultimately are ending up. I'm not sure. I don't somehow believe that ended up as a relocation. It was absolutely incumbent that Carter needs to be not only curtailed but eventually moved south from the site. Everybody who's lived in the horror of Carter would not be against that, but my concern is there is a lot to this project and what's put on the table in front of us. It was incumbent for this deal to be reasonable for Target, that Coleman and the other business that occupied the property between Englehart's property and South Street be relocated. That wasn't information shared up front. That was information shared today when the questions were asked. So my concern is that you really cannot make a decision about the best and highest use of that land, because even Richard Burdorf would tell you it's his subjective opinion that it's retail, because that's in fact what he develops. But what are we doing with our last industrial base? We are not doing any land use studies. We're not looking at how we're going to keep any type of industry. If Target is going to create an influence of driving retail down Lower South Street, that may be the path we're on by putting Target in there to begin with. Richard Burdorf made it very clear. He builds shopping centers. He may start with the Target, but he builds shopping centers. A standalone, freestanding Target is not a shopping center. So there are a lot of unanswered questions, and I would like to see and discuss and look at what our land use ultimately will be down all of Lower South Street, because I think that becomes extremely critical for the success of whatever occupies that parcel. And I don't believe we're out of town. I don't believe that you take whatever marriage proposal is put in front of you because that's the last suitor standing at the door. I believe that we still need additional work that we can actually do. And Target may be a wonderful corporate philanthropist, but there's no guarantees that what Target corporate does will generate the kind of largesse for Peekskill that it has in other communities. It still comes down to how the individuals who will run a Target store in our city would be willing to partner with us. And it raises questions on how Target would fit in with the overall redevelopment down Lower South Street, down the riverfront. And I asked those questions about what you might possibly do to mitigate traffic congestion. If we're going to have more retail all the way through the riverfront development, more housing, more residential developments, et cetera. It all has to work in concert. That's not necessarily the historic model for Target. Doesn't mean it can't become a model, but Richard Burdorf is not the person who's going to make that happen. He's going to build a building for us. The rest of it still becomes incumbent on the city to work out, along with the rest of what we're doing with Lower South Street. So yes, I have reservations, and I won't support this right now.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Where do I start? Well, first of all, let me just start by saying this property has been vacant there in a laydown area basically for a number of years by the Engelhard Corporation. Ended up coming for sale. And the potential buyers, Perini Corporation, were going to buy it and put their construction yard there, since we didn't know it at the time, but they were the lead bidders on the Tappan Zee Bridge project, and they ended up, as we all read in the paper, getting the project. They wanted that property very bad to put construction equipment and materials there. Luckily, we found out about it. Nothing against Perini Corporation, but we just didn't feel that that was the best use of that property and the best move forward for the city of Peekskill. We were lucky enough to be able to meet with the Engelhard people, a very community-minded organization, and they worked with us to give us the opportunity to do what we did, to go out and look for people or organizations or businesses or whoever interested in that property for the city. Luckily, RD management was looking in this area already. They looked at that property and they thought that it would be a good idea to further their holdings by developing that property and making one of their tenants there, one of their clients, which they have many of. And obviously, Target was one of the ones that came in and was very interested after looking at the property and looking at a few other things. They did have other interested clients. Lowe's was very interested, from what I understand, in that property, and obviously we would not want a Lowe's there since we are relocating Danes Lumber just down the street and across the street from them, a very old, century-old business in the city of Peekskill, which we are working to enhance. As you might have remember from previous meetings, we talked about their new location and their new facility. Because of that new facility of Danes, because of what we did with CARTA to reduce it by 80%, and now relocate businesses to that area and redevelop, as part of the waterfront project, GDC, the L&L scrap metal, which is now out of business, thank God, and their property will be cleaned up. Because of all that work being done, Target Corporation, which is a very big corporation, obviously came in. The corporates came in, from what I understand, and they met with Ginsburg, looked at what their plan was for that area, and because of that plan, we're very interested in this corner lot. By having all this, possibly 3/4 of that area already now on the way of redevelopment and planning, the rest of it will be very easy to incorporate into whatever plan the city wants to do with that area down there. You might remember, at least I do if you lived in Peekskill for any length of time, a store called Caldors out on Route 6 that if you ever needed something, you went to Caldors. And when that closed down, it was devastating to a lot of people. But when you think about it, I didn't think about it as a youngster, that wasn't in the city of Peekskill. How many people in Peekskill went out to Caldors every day or every week to buy what they needed? Well, this Target will kind of fill that void. It'll kind of be like the Caldors of when I was younger out here on Route 6 in the town of Cortland. And I think by having it within the boundaries of the city of Peekskill will enable the citizens of Peekskill to have a place to go without having to travel east on Main Street and Route 6, on 202, and deal with 20 minutes, half-hour traffic just to get to the Cortland Town Center or the mall. It's a very big move for the city of Peekskill. It really means that we've come to a point with all the previous work we've been able to do as a place to look at the projects on the drawing table throughout the city. People will now look at Target as a very big addition to the city. As part of the Route 9 redevelopment of the bridges, the South Street exit will be closed, so those people living in Riverbend will not have the traffic to worry about coming off of Route 9. Any traffic from Route 9 that will go to this facility will go right to the Louisa Street exit, which is another positive to this property since it's right off the exit, right next to Route 9. So there's a lot of positives to that. Somebody mentioned more recreation. Nobody would want more recreation than me in the city. I mean, look at the baseball field we were able to build. That took a lot of work, but look at how great that turned out and all the other things we've done throughout the city recreation-wise. But you have to realize, buying the property, close to $2 million, somewhere around there. $2.5 million. Building or doing whatever site work, probably a couple $1 million in site work, whatever it costs to build whatever facility, another number of millions of dollars. Let's round it up to $10 million. Ice skating rinks do not generate that kind of revenue. I grew up playing hockey, going 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning to Low Tour and High Tour in Haverstraw to play hockey. Both of those places closed up not too long after the 70s and the hockey craze kind of went out in this area. So nobody would want recreation more than me, but nobody can afford that kind of cost to purchase, develop, build, and then sustain the business there. That's why only certain things will go there, only certain organizations will be interested in there. It's a matter of economics. For the city, the tax revenue is tremendous. Without adding residences, I think it's time wherever we can to do that. the jobs, over 300 jobs that will be generated there. Who cares if some of them are part-time jobs? There are people who want part-time jobs, okay? There are people who maybe will get full-time jobs there as well. People will be able to get the services, the items they need without, as I said, traveling far out of town. So I don't know what else to say except that I think this is a great addition to the city. I think Mr. Ondek, who's not here, mentioned about coming out of his condo, Society Hill, and turning left and leaving town. Well, think of all those people who might live in Forest View, might live in Society Hill or so forth, who always turn left coming out of their complexes. Now they'll turn right, go into the downtown to get to Target, and they'll see what's downtown. As downtown develops, they'll want to go downtown, and maybe we'll have a whole new revitalization of people who never even went downtown yet who live in Peekskill. I'm sure there's quite a few of them. So I think there's so many benefits to this, and there is a time restraint as far as I'm concerned, a timetable, not only for saving the taxpayers money by not having the bonds to pay off for a longer period of time, but also strike while the iron is hot for development right now to make sure that we have this interested developer, this interested organization, Target, specifically interested in Peekskill, and that's why I'm going to support this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
One opposition. Target will be coming, two opposition. Passes 5-2.